At the family dinner where laughter filled the air and pride filled his chest, Ethan spat on his wife, calling her worthless in front of everyone. Unaware the woman he just humiliated owned the very company his parents had served for decades. To him, she was just a burden, a mistake he regretted marrying. But to everyone else watching, especially those who knew her secret, she was power wrapped in silence, grace hiding thunder. So why did she smile instead of fighting back? And what did she do next that made her arrogant husband and his entire family fall to their knees before her? The silver chandelier glimmered over the long mahogany table, reflecting the fine china and the smug smiles of Ethan's family. He leaned back in his chair, arm around his new fiancée, Vanessa, young, flawless, loud in all the ways Emma wasn't. Emma sat at the far end, hands folded neatly in her lap, her wheelchair quietly tucked beneath the table. Her eyes shimmered under the soft lights, not from tears but from restraint. "Maybe if you weren't so useless, Ethan wouldn't have left you," Vanessa mocked, twirling her wineglass. Laughter rippled across the table. Ethan's mother chuckling, his father avoiding eye contact, and Ethan himself smirking like a man basking in victory. Emma's voice was soft even. "Be careful what you call useless, Vanessa. Some things have more value than you can measure." Ethan slammed his palm on the table. "Value? You've been living off my family for years, Emma. Don't start pretending you matter." And that's when he did it, leaned forward, spat near her plate, and muttered, "You disgust me." The room fell silent. The echo of that humiliation lingered like a stench. Emma didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She simply looked at him, calm and still, as though memorizing his face for the last time. In that moment, her restraint was more terrifying than rage. Her gaze dropped to the ring on her finger. The same ring she'd bought for herself after their wedding, because Ethan couldn't afford one then. He had forgotten those nights in their tiny apartment when she worked double shifts to pay his college tuition. Forgotten how she'd sold her mother's heirloom bracelet to help him start his first business. Back then, he'd called her his miracle. Now, she was his embarrassment. "Excuse me," Emma said softly, wheeling back from the table. "I think I've had enough of charity dinners." As she turned, Vanessa snickered. "Run along, darling." "Don't scratch the floors!" The laughter followed her out like hyenas chasing prey. But once outside, under the cool night air, Emma's composure cracked. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her shawl. The pain wasn't from the insult. She was long past being hurt by Ethan's words. It was from the bitter irony that the people mocking her had no idea whose name was printed in gold at the top of their family's paychecks. Coleman Industries, her company, her father's legacy, the same company Ethan's parents had served as senior accountants for 30 years. The same company Ethan had mocked her for not understanding business. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "You really don't know, do you, Ethan?" she whispered. That night when she got home, she willed herself to the massive portrait of her late father hanging in the study. His kind eyes seemed to meet hers, stern, wise, knowing. "I kept your promise, Dad," she murmured. "I married for love, but love turned into pity, and pity turned into poison." A flashback seared through her mind. The day of the accident, rain, screeching tires, the taste of blood. Ethan's voice shouting her name. She had woken in the hospital to find his eyes already distant, his hands cold. Within months, his warmth turned into duty, then disgust. He had stopped touching her, stopped seeing her, and when he finally walked out, he left behind a note, not even a goodbye. Just, "I can't live like this anymore." She'd thought that was the end, until she saw the engagement announcement 2 months later. Ethan and Vanessa. The world saw a tragic, abandoned woman, but Emma knew better. This was a test of patience, and hers was running out. That night, she called someone she hadn't spoken to in years, Mark Dillard, her father's old attorney. "Emma?" His tone carried surprise and curiosity. "It's been a long time." "I'm ready, Mark," she said quietly. "It's time to rewrite the board of Coleman Industries." "Are you sure?" he asked. "Once this starts, there's no going back." Her eyes hardened. "I don't want to go back." And as thunder rolled outside her mansion, her reflection in the glass seemed almost unfamiliar, poised, patient, dangerous. For the first time since her accident, Emma didn't feel broken. She felt powerful. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Emma's study. A soft hum of classical music filled the air as she reviewed the files spread across her desk. Company statements, ownership documents, and signed agreements. Every sheet of paper was a reminder of what Ethan never bothered to learn. He thought she was just a fragile wife trapped in a wheelchair, but she was the silent majority shareholder of Coleman Industries, the billion-dollar empire that kept his family employed and their name respected in the city. Emma pressed a button on her intercom. "Lydia, bring in Mr. Dillard." Moments later, Mark Dillard stepped in, briefcase in hand. His salt and pepper hair and sharp eyes carried decades of loyalty to the Coleman family. "Emma," he said with a low nod, "I've drawn up the necessary documents for the restructuring. Once you sign, you'll have full authority over executive decisions, including employment terminations." Her lips tightened. "Perfect." Mark hesitated. "You're really going to do it?" She looked up, her calm voice hiding the storm underneath. "They spat on me as if I were dust under their shoes, Mark. Ethan mocked me in front of everyone. And the worst part? He doesn't even realize he owes every paycheck, every success, every ounce of that family pride to me." Mark sighed, opening the folder. "Then let's begin." As the pen glided across the pages, Emma felt something shift inside her. Each signature was a line drawn between who she used to be, the quiet wife desperate for love, and who she was becoming, a woman sculpted from betrayal. By the time she finished signing, there was no turning back. "I'll schedule the board meeting for Friday," Mark said, packing up. "Ethan and his parents will be present, correct?" "Oh, they'll be there," Emma replied softly, a faint smile touching her lips. "They just won't know why." Later that day, she rolled her wheelchair out onto the balcony overlooking her sprawling garden. The wind carried the scent of magnolias, her mother's favorite flower. A gentle ache filled her chest as she remembered the life she once dreamed of with Ethan. A house filled with laughter, maybe children, shared sunsets. Flashbacks blurred the edges of her thoughts. Their wedding day, Ethan's teary vows, his hand trembling as he promised, through sickness and health, forever. Forever had lasted 5 years. The phone buzzed beside her, pulling her back to reality. It was a message from her assistant, Lydia. "Lydia, Mrs. Coleman," Mr. Ethan called. "He said he wanted to discuss a business proposal with you personally." Emma's eyes flickered with intrigue. Ethan had no idea who Mrs. Coleman truly was. To him, she was just some anonymous executive behind a powerful company. "Set the meeting," Emma texted back. "Tomorrow morning, at my office." The next day, Ethan walked into the lobby of Coleman Industries with Vanessa clinging to his arm. He was dressed sharply, confidence dripping from every step. He had no clue that every employee bowing respectfully as he passed was secretly watching the wife he had humiliated prepare his downfall. They were escorted to the top floor, where Emma waited behind a wide mahogany desk. When Ethan stepped in, his grin faltered. His mouth fell open slightly. "Emma?" Vanessa blinked, confused. "Wait, you're the executive we're meeting?" Emma's calm smile never wavered. "Good morning, Ethan. Vanessa, please sit." Ethan's confusion melted into irritation. "What the hell is this? I came to meet the CEO." "You are," Emma interrupted softly. Vanessa's face drained of color. You're the CEO?" Emma folded her hands neatly. "Majority owner and chairwoman, actually. You're sitting in my office." Silence crashed between them. Ethan's jaw clenched, his pride twisting into disbelief. "That's impossible," he spat. "You're crippled?" She finished for him. Her tone was steady, unflinching. "Yes, I lost my legs, not my mind." Vanessa's hand slipped from Ethan's arm. Emma's gaze sharpened. "You came here with a business proposal, didn't you? Something about expanding your new construction firm." Ethan tried to recover his composure. "Yes, it's a great opportunity for Coleman Industries to..." "Declined," Emma said flatly. "What?" "I don't do business with people who spit on me," she said, her voice calm but cutting. "You see, Ethan, last night wasn't humiliation. It was revelation. You showed me exactly who you are. Now it's my turn." Vanessa stood, trembling. "Emma, please, you can't." "Oh, I can," Emma replied coldly. "Effective immediately, your parents, Ethan, are being relieved from their positions at this company. Severance pay will be processed by end of week." Ethan's face turned red. "You can't fire my parents. They've worked here their whole lives." Emma's eyes softened just slightly. "Yes. And they deserved better than a son who humiliated the woman who signs their checks." Ethan stepped closer, voice shaking with fury. "You think this makes you powerful? You'll regret this." Emma leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "I already did. For years, but not anymore." Security entered at her quiet nod. Vanessa gasped as they escorted the couple out. Ethan turned one last time, eyes blazing with wounded pride. "This isn't over," he hissed. Emma's voice followed him out like silk over steel. "Oh, Ethan, it hasn't even started." When the door closed, Emma exhaled slowly, her pulse racing. Her hands trembled, not from weakness, but from release. For the first time, she wasn't the woman Ethan abandoned. She was the woman he'd never see coming, and this was only the beginning. 2 weeks had passed since that fateful meeting, and word of Ethan's outburst at Coleman Industries spread like wildfire across the city's business circles. What had once been whispered admiration for his ambitious new firm turned into rumors laced with contempt. Emma hadn't even needed to say much. She let the truth circulate on its own. All she did was release a single internal memo through Coleman's PR department. Effective immediately, the Coleman Industries Board has terminated all partnerships with Ethan Parker Construction due to violations of ethical conduct and professional integrity. The memo didn't mention the dinner incident or his betrayal. It didn't need to. In a city built on reputation, silence with a hint of scandal was louder than proof. Ethan's phone buzzed nonstop with angry investors and contractors pulling out of deals. The mansion he'd once paraded Vanessa through started to feel like a trap. "Emma's behind this," Ethan shouted, slamming his phone onto the marble counter. "She's poisoning my reputation," Vanessa flinched. "Ethan, maybe if you just apologize." "Apologize?" he barked, rounding on her. "To her? After everything she's done?" "She owns half this city now," Vanessa whispered. "You said she was weak. You said she'd never fight back." Ethan's jaw tightened. She's bluffing, but he didn't believe his own words anymore. Across town, Emma sat in her home office, eyes fixed on her laptop screen as she watched a live financial report. Ethan's company stock had plummeted 20% in one day. Lydia, her assistant, entered with 2 cups of tea. "You've done it. He's collapsing faster than we thought." Emma didn't smile. "No," she said quietly. "Not yet." Her voice carried no hatred, only precision, like a surgeon cutting through rot. Her father's words echoed in her memory. "Power doesn't scream, Emma. It whispers, and the wise listen." She was done whispering. That evening, she opened a folder marked Vanessa Legal Affairs. Inside were documents detailing how Vanessa had falsified qualifications to gain her previous job at a rival firm. A secret Ethan didn't know. Emma had discovered it years ago, but buried it, back when she believed love mattered more than revenge. Now it was leverage. She drafted an anonymous tip to the firm's HR department, attaching scanned proof. Within 48 hours, Vanessa's name was trending online. Vanessa Moore fired over credential fraud scandal. By Friday, paparazzi had swarmed their home. Ethan's business partners refused to take his calls. Clients withdrew contracts. The empire he'd built on arrogance was rotting beneath him. But still, Emma wasn't satisfied. Revenge wasn't about destruction, it was about lesson. That weekend, she hosted a charity gala under Coleman Industries' name. The city's elite attended, the same people who once mocked her for being the crippled wife. This time she arrived in an elegant silver gown, her wheelchair customized with chrome edges and soft white leather. Cameras flashed. The crowd fell silent as she entered. "Is that her?" someone whispered. "She looks incredible." "Did you hear what she did to Ethan?" Emma smiled graciously, nodding as journalists rushed in. "Mrs. Coleman, is it true you're the sole owner of Coleman Industries now?" "Yes," she replied calmly. "I took over after certain Unethical associations were discovered. It was the perfect bait. An hour later, Ethan arrived uninvited, disheveled and furious. Security tried to stop him, but Emma raised her hand. Let him in. He marched across the ballroom, voice echoing. You think humiliating me makes you better, Emma? You think money fixes your broken legs? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras rolled. Emma's smile didn't fade. No, Ethan, she said softly, her voice steady. Money doesn't fix broken legs, but it does reveal who will stand by you when you can't stand yourself. The room went still. Reporters captured every word. Ethan's expression faltered, rage bleeding into regret. You can't do this here. I'm not doing anything, she interrupted. You're doing it yourself. She gestured lightly to the cameras, the crowd, the phones recording. Every lie he'd told, every insult he'd thrown, now immortalized for the world to see. Vanessa stood at the doorway, mascara streaking down her face. Ethan, please, stop. But he couldn't. Pride had eaten what little humility he had left. You'll regret this, Emma. She tilted her head. You said that before. I'm still waiting. He stormed out, pushing past reporters. Flashbulbs followed him into the night. Emma exhaled slowly. Her hands shook, but not from fear, from release. The moment she had once begged for, his acknowledgement, his apology, no longer mattered. She didn't want his remorse. She wanted peace. As the gala ended, she rolled toward the grand window overlooking the city. Light shimmered across the skyline. The empire her father built, the empire she now commanded. Mark approached quietly. He's ruined. His company's filing for bankruptcy next week. Are you satisfied? Emma's eyes glistened. Not yet. He still has something left. His pride. I'll take that last. Mark hesitated. And then what? She looked out the window, voice faint. Then maybe I'll forgive him. Outside, thunder rolled again, just as it had the night she began her revenge. Only this time, the storm didn't frighten her. It answered her. Her vengeance wasn't over. It was evolving. Rain fell that night, a soft drizzle at first, then heavier, as if the sky itself wanted to wash away the sins that had soaked the city. Inside her glass-walled penthouse, Emma sat by the fire, the glow reflecting off the framed photo of her and Ethan from better days. His smile looked innocent then, full of dreams, but she knew now it had been built on lies and ambition. Her phone buzzed. Lydia's calm voice came through. Mrs. Coleman, the transfer's complete. Ethan and Vanessa have officially lost the last of their company assets. The media's already running the story. Emma nodded slowly. And the house? Foreclosure notice was served this afternoon. They have 30 days to vacate. For a long moment, Emma said nothing. She could almost see it. Ethan pacing the empty mansion, Vanessa sobbing in the corner, both stripped of their wealth and reputation. But this wasn't about material loss. Her revenge had been meticulous, but it was about something deeper. Ethan had left her when she was broken. Now, she had broken everything he thought defined him. Still, a part of her heart trembled. Revenge, no matter how justified, left a hollow space behind. Mrs. Coleman, Lydia said gently. Should I proceed with the final notice? Emma's eyes hardened again. Yes, send it, tonight. Across town, Ethan sat in the dim living room of the house that used to be his sanctuary. The power had been cut off hours ago due to unpaid bills. Candlelight flickered across his face, once confident, now worn with desperation. Vanessa sat opposite him, mascara smudged, her once luxurious gown crumpled from days of wear. This is your fault, Ethan muttered. My fault? Vanessa shot back, her voice sharp with hysteria. You're the one who thought you could humiliate a woman who owns half the damn city. You told me she was weak. I didn't know, Ethan shouted, slamming his fist on the table. She hid it from me. Vanessa laughed bitterly. Maybe she didn't hide it. Maybe you just never bothered to see her. The silence that followed was heavy, cruel. Ethan sank into the couch, his hands covering his face. Memories of Emma flooded in. Her quiet laughter, the way she believed in him when no one else did. The nights she stayed awake, helping him draft proposals for his first contracts. He had spat on the very person who made him. A knock sounded at the door. Ethan froze. Vanessa hesitated, then opened it, revealing a delivery man holding a white envelope. "From Coleman Industries," he said curtly before leaving. Ethan tore it open. Inside was a letter embossed with the company's gold seal. His eyes scanned the lines, his hands trembling. "Dear Mr. Parker, your personal and corporate accounts have been reviewed and found to contain unpaid debts owed to Coleman Industries and affiliated subsidiaries. Effective immediately, all remaining assets and intellectual properties under your name are being repossessed as collateral under Clause 14 of your contract. E. Coleman." At the bottom was a handwritten note. "Ethan, you taught me that weakness deserves no mercy. I'm only returning the lesson." The paper slipped from his hand. He sank to the floor, eyes wet with something between regret and disbelief. "She's destroyed me," he whispered. Vanessa didn't reply. She simply picked up her purse and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Ethan demanded. "To survive," she said coldly. "Something you never taught me to do." The door slammed behind her, leaving him alone with his ghosts. The next morning, the city awoke to headlines that read, "Ethan Parker declared bankrupt. Ex-wife and CEO Emma Coleman gains full control of his holdings." The internet buzzed with commentary. Some called it karma. Others called it poetic justice. But those who knew Emma personally said only one thing: she finally found her peace. Later that day, Emma attended a board meeting. As the directors applauded her for strategic consolidation, she smiled politely, but her mind was elsewhere. When the meeting ended, she asked everyone to leave except Mark. He watched her quietly as she gazed out the window. "It's done," he said softly. "You've avenged everything." Emma turned to him, eyes distant. "Have I? Or have I just built another cage, this time one of victory instead of pity?" Mark hesitated. "You still loved him once. It's normal to feel conflicted." She looked at the reflection of her wheelchair in the glass. "He broke me, Mark, but I'm not angry at him anymore. I'm angry that I let his cruelty define me for so long." "Then maybe forgiveness is your final revenge," he said gently. She smiled faintly. "Maybe." That evening she drove, or rather, had Lydia drive her, to the place where everything began, the small cafe where she and Ethan had met 10 years earlier. The neon lights still flickered, the smell of coffee still warm. She ordered his favorite drink, black coffee with 2 sugars, and left it on the table across from her. Then she whispered, "Goodbye, Ethan." Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered on the wet pavement like diamonds. The next morning, the news reported that Ethan Parker had been found unconscious in his foreclosed home, clutching an old photograph, their wedding picture. He survived, but his mind was shattered, a shell of the man he once was. Emma read the report in silence, then closed the laptop. Mark entered quietly. "Do you want me to release a statement?" She shook her head. "No, let him be. Let silence finish what revenge began." Mark nodded and left. Emma wheeled herself to the balcony, watching the sunrise paint gold across the skyline. For the first time, the world felt quiet. Not empty, just still. Her revenge hadn't healed her, but it had freed her. She whispered to herself, "You spat on me, Ethan, but I rose from the ground you dirtied." And as the morning light touched her face, the powerful woman who had once been a broken wife smiled, not with triumph, but with peace. 5 years later, autumn swept through the city with the soft hush of falling leaves. The skyline had changed. New towers gleamed where old ones once stood, and among them, at the heart of downtown, the tallest bore the name Coleman Foundation for Recovery and Resilience. Emma's foundation had become one of the most respected charitable institutions in the country, dedicated to helping accident survivors, widows, and abandoned women rebuild their lives. Her story had inspired millions, though very few knew the full truth behind it. Inside her office, now filled with light and warmth instead of fire and vengeance, Emma looked out over the city she once ruled with quiet fury. The wheelchair gleamed softly beside her polished oak desk. She didn't use it as often anymore. Physical therapy had restored some of her strength, and she could now walk short distances with braces. Lydia entered with her usual calm smile. The board meeting's ready, Mrs. Coleman, and there's someone here to see you. An old friend. Emma arched a brow. An old friend? The door opened, and Mark Dillard stepped in, holding a small envelope. His hair had gone grayer, but his eyes carried the same warmth. I found this in the company archives, he said, handing it to her. Emma took the envelope carefully. Inside was an old handwritten letter, sealed and dated years ago, from Ethan. Her breath caught as she unfolded it. Emma, if you ever read this, it means I've already failed at being the man you believed I could be. I wanted to love you forever, but I was weak. When you were hurt, I saw my reflection in your pain, and I couldn't bear it. Instead of standing by you, I ran. Not because you were broken, but because I was. You didn't deserve the way I left. You didn't deserve any of it. If there's any justice, I hope you find peace, even if I'm not part of it. Ethan and Emma sat in silence, her fingers trembling slightly. For a long time, she said nothing. Then very softly, she whispered, You were right, Ethan. I did find peace, but only when I stopped needing justice to give it to me. She folded the letter carefully and placed it back into the envelope. Should I archive it? Mark asked. No, she said, smiling faintly. Burn it. Let it end where it should have. He nodded, understanding. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma stood on her balcony with a cane in hand. The wind played with her hair as she watched the city glow, the empire she had once conquered now humming beneath her feet like a living memory. For years, revenge had been her heartbeat, but now forgiveness was her peace. She whispered to the fading sky, Thank you for teaching me that even broken wings can still fly. And as night fell, the lights of the Coleman Foundation shone brighter than ever, a symbol not of vengeance, but of rebirth.